All right, welcome to the audio page of Human Potential Comes Through Living Universe. Now, for the purposes of these recordings, I am going to title this something different. The title of this first set of recordings is going to be Human Potential is Because of Living Universe. Because of Living Universe. The first thing to understand is this is going to continue from your foundation of the four components of the human experience on planet Earth. So if you have not listened to the four components of the human experience on planet Earth, please do so before you listen to this. Otherwise, this storyline will be a bit disconnected. It's also following the part of planetary system reality. That is really crucial stuff, and if you haven't listened to that, please do. I'm laying these out in order because I'm hoping you'll listen to them in order. The reason for that is because it's building upon itself, and I'm laying down tracks and ideas that will actually build upon itself. But this one specifically, Human Potential, is really, you're going to need the four components of the human experience, all of those audios, to follow along with what I'm about to say, because I'm going to talk about frequencies, I'm going to talk about paradigms, and I'm going to talk about human potentiality. I'm going to talk about the creative force. I'm going to talk about creation. I'm probably even going to talk about creator. And I might even throw in a little bit of Bible, so don't be freaking out, people. Millennials, stay calm, man. This is for you, buddy. People, folks. Now, one of the main themes in the four components of the human experience is, of course, how we are designed. This is how humans are designed. That's all the humans. All the humans on the planet are designed a certain way, and that looks at how they're designed. Now, that's why it's very important that you get an idea of that sunk into your consciousness when you listen to this. The main theme, or one of the main themes on the planetary system reality page is the stuff that went on to get us to think certain ways, and the institutions that have been hoisted upon us to get us to think certain ways, and the stuff that goes on that has kind of disconnected us from real live reality of, hey, we are earthlings, and this is what Earth is really about. It's not about all this stuff we're brainwashed to think it's really about something completely different. And so those two things are almost, I would go as far as saying, incredibly important to pick up and plug into your mind when you're listening to this, because these things are laid down in order. So again, I'm reinforcing that idea. But anyway, here we go. Human potential is because of the living universe. Now, when we look at human potential, we're actually looking at a few things. A couple of them are creativity. Creativity is huge. Some of the most massive and coolest inventions ever on this planet, on the surface of this planet, ever, are through creativity. Creativity is designed into us as part of our four components. It's part of the soul component. It's also part of the intellect, a part of the consciousness. Another thing we want to see is life's purpose. Let me tell you something on this. Out in my backyard right now, I have this little tribe of goats and baby sheep. And the reason they're out there is because it's such a wet year, because we live on planet Earth, and these We live in cycles. Some of the years are really wet, some of them are dry, some of them are hot, some of them are cold. We might go through some really freezing cold cycle for a century. We might go through some boiling hot cycle for a century. This is life on Earth that happens in cycles. But these things are out in the backyard right now because it's a pretty big backyard and you can't mow the lawn when it's wet without blowing your lawnmower up. It's just not good. So I begged my neighbor who has a bunch of these things and said, hey, you know, what do you think about letting me borrow some, letting me borrow some of these things as lawnmowers? And he didn't have a problem with it. So they're out there right now doing their job. And the reason I bring this up is because, see, they have a life's purpose. Just like the humans have a life's purpose. Part of the human purpose is to create paradigms, but let me talk about the goats for a minute, okay? The goats are really good and it makes them really super happy to eat grass and drop blops of poop all over the place. They really like it. It's like they really enjoy that. And the reason they enjoy that is because that's part of their design. They sit around, they eat grass, they don't sit around, they walk around, they eat grass, and then they sit around and chew their cud. That is their nature. It's also their life's purpose. You want to clear a field? Put a tribe, which is what they are in my mind. They're a little tiny tribe of goat beings and little baby sheep beings. And they're kind of cute too, but they're a little tribe of these little beings, earth creatures, they're earthlings. And they're out there doing what they're designed to do. They're fulfilling their purpose in life. I'm merely harnessing their purpose in life because it's part of a new paradigm I'm creating, and it's happening on a very tiny scale, which is actually my backyard. Now, why am I laying this out for you and couching it or framing it like this? Because I want to talk about these things with humans. It's kind of interesting to see not only that, but man, it's going to lay some really heavy stuff on you. You know, people run around going, what is my purpose? What is my purpose? What is my purpose? The reason they do that is because we have intentionally been disconnected from understanding our purpose. We have intentionally been programmed. We have and this has been going on for thousands of years. And if you haven't listened to the second one, the one before this one, and the set of recordings before this one, this is not going to make sense to you, but I explained it in detail. I mean, there's hours of recordings, and literally a couple of hours of recordings in there. But we the people, that is to say, the human beings, from the twin paradigms that are now running on planet Earth so successfully, unfortunately for us, for we the people of all the nations on Earth, every country, every nation on Earth, we the people, are disconnected from understanding we really are earthlings and what really that means. What does it really mean to be an earthling? And because of that, we're disconnected from our purposes in life. And just like I took those little goats and threw them in the backyard and make sure they have plenty of water and plenty of stuff to do and plenty of stuff to eat, I'm actually harnessing their purpose. I'm harnessing their purpose because I'm a human. And humans are designed to create paradigms. It's a human trait. So I'm creating a paradigm where I'm saying, okay, I'm taking these little creatures. These are little creatures, part of creation. They're little creatures with life. They're part of life existence within the cosmos. That's what they really are. They have little personalities, and they're like little tribal beings, except they run around on four. They run around on four hooves, and they do the craziest stuff. You wouldn't believe it. But anyway, check this out. So I said, okay, well, because I'm a human, I am designed to create paradigms. I really am designed to create. That's part of my purpose. And I'm going to create a paradigm where I don't have to tear up my lawnmower because it's a wet cycle in the place where I live, which is Texas, on the plains of Texas. And I'm harnessing these things because I understand this is their life's purpose. Their life's purpose is actually to graze and to poop. That's part of their purpose. There's way more to their purpose, but that's part of their purpose. So I'm harnessing them because I'm creating a little tiny paradigm in my backyard. Okay? Now we're going to expound on this because I want you to see something about human purpose. I want you to understand something about why humans are running around saying, what's my purpose, what's my purpose, what's my purpose? It's really sad. And the reason that is because of the last one of these, hopefully you listen to. That's why we run around now, we the people of the nations on earth, saying, what's my purpose, what's my purpose, what's my purpose? Because we've all got this script running in our heads, endowed on us by something else, some other paradigm, the twin paradigms, which I talked about that last time, so we're not going to go into that. That's in the last set of recordings. But our purpose, your purpose, is tied to your traits. Now, human traits, one of the huge human traits that we really aren't supposed to know about, but I'm telling you it anyway, because we live in a time where, man, you really have to understand this is what we are, and if we don't do something about it, we're going to continue to be the same way. And as you can see now, it's really not working. This idea that's been going on for thousands of years is not working. It's destroying us. It is destroying us, the humans. It's destroying us. And the trick to actually getting us to this place where we're being destroyed is in cutting us off from understanding this very simple thing that I'm going to lay out in this set of recordings. So let's observe, shall we? Our purposes are tied to our traits, like I just said. Our purposes are tied to our traits. Please, 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 I'm repeating this because I really want it to sink down into your consciousness. That's one of your 4 components. Consciousness is one of your 4 components. It's very important to understand because, you see, the earth is our home. It's not for any crazy idea that the earth is our home. It just happens to be that's where we're born, and it's all for a reason. It's all for there's a giant reason for that. We are literally earthlings. And yes, I'm not dispensing with the idea that we have souls and you know, eventually we croak and we go do something else and we go somewhere else. I'm not dispensing with that at all. I'm talking about life right here, right now. While you're alive listening to this, you are an earthling. While you're alive on earth, you are an earthling. That's never going to cease. So long as you're alive on earth, I don't care what form you take. As long as you're a living being on earth, you're an earthling. It just so happens that we happen to be human. Human. So we're human earthlings. We're humans being on earth, our home, by the way. And here's where I want you to connect the dots. Just like I took those little goats, that little tribe of beings, which is what they are, and put them in the backyard to harness their purpose, which is also one of their traits, and their trait is, of course, to graze and to poop, and said, okay, I'm going to harness this for my purpose, but my purposes are not malevolent. My purposes are that they're happy, and they're healthy, and they enjoy themselves, because they're kind of fun to watch, you know? But if I had malevolent purposes, and I was a control freak kind of being that said, I want to control everything, it's all mine, and the earth is mine, shut up, slave. If I wanted to be like that kind of a being, which actually is my free choice to do, if I wanted to be like that kind of a being, I would harness their trait into something else, and I would not let them know. Of course, when you're dealing with animals, it's not the same as dealing with humans. But I would not let them know that my purposes are kind of jacking their lives up because they're my slaves, they're my cattle, they're my beings, they belong to me. I'm harnessing them toward my purposes. I'm harnessing their inborn traits. And what is the human inborn trait? Again, yet again, I'm going to say this yet again. One of the huge, big inborn traits is to create paradigms. Now, how does this tie together with what I just said to you about being harnessed by this group of control freaks that control the whole planet? Paradigms can be set up in many ways. In fact, if you look at the history of Earth, you will see that paradigms have been and will continue to be set up in many ways. Paradigms are tied to people's consciousness. Really good paradigms are tied to people's consciousness and also tied to their creativity. And really bad paradigms, and I'm looking at this from the perspective of we the people, not the controllers, but we the people. Really bad paradigms are set up without creativity. In other words, let's stifle all that. No thinking allowed. We are going to infuse you with what you should think, and don't you dare think anything else because we are the controllers. Yes. But these are paradigms. Paradigms has to do with consciousness. It's like this little pocket of consciousness. That is a paradigm. Let's say, okay, well, in this particular city, it has this kind of vibe. Let's say we're dealing with Austin, Texas. It's a lot different in Austin, Texas than it is in Houston, Texas. It's a lot different in Austin, Texas than it is in Dallas, Texas. Because these are different paradigms. The thing was set up a different way. It's a different view. It's a different vibe. It's like the difference between hip hop and classic rock. And that's kind of a big subject. We'll say folk rock. And these are heavy contrasts because I'm making them heavy contrast so you can see what I'm saying. All of the paradigms of folk rock and folk rock singers and this stuff from folk rock, and the feeling of folk rock music when you hear it, it's one paradigm. Then you have hip hop. Hip hop is another paradigm altogether. It attracts a different kind of people, but that's what a paradigm is. But when you're dealing with consciousness and you're dealing with setting up a paradigm, you're talking about, okay, well, here's a whole consciousness. It's like, let's set up this paradigm like this. And then you go about setting up that paradigm like this. Now, of course, we need to know what this is, like this is. The problem with this is that people are really not aware. And this is all planned. Trust me when I tell you this. People are not aware that they have this trait. This trait is born in them. I mean, the stuff that we learn about ourselves it's horrendous. It's horrendous. It's designed to keep us stuck in this dual or twin paradigm system from the last set of recordings, from the last page actually.